And you also can see that my testosterone might not come back. I'm not sure. I'm going to try to recover it.
What's up guys, Derek, moreplaysmoredates.com. Today we're going to be reacting to Ryan Russo blood work results after over 20 SARMs and steroid cycles and the side effects and mitigation. So if you don't know Russo, this is actually a friend of mine, a Gorilla Mind athlete as well. He's sponsored by us, and I haven't actually watched this. I've been saving it on my watch later list for a couple days because I wanted to get like a fresh reaction to it. I haven't actually watched it. And he's done a lot of experiments. Like, you think I experiment with my shit? Like, yeah, I do, but he's also like very, very, very entrenched in the same kind of shit, but more so skewed in the bodybuilding direction. You know, I'm kind of like a cross between like experimenting with health shit, hair loss shit, bodybuilding shit, but he's like very much skewed in the direction of like performance. So most of his, you know, experiments have involved like cutting edge compounds, being like the first guy to inject like something random. He's done some pretty ballsy stuff, as have I, but like, so we're like pretty much aligned in that we do like nutty shit. And it should be interesting to see what his blood work results are coming back at, because he's tried a ton of different stuff, like injectable SARMs, fucking injectable CBD, he's done injectable like fucking everything at this point, including a bunch of different compounds you probably never even heard of that I won't bore you with. I'll let him talk, but I'm gonna put it on 1.25 times speed, just so you know, just so I can get through this. Like, this is a 20-minute video, and with my commentary this could easily turn into like an hour. So I'm gonna turn his up to 1.25, and I might jump around a bit, but we'll see. I'm gonna skip the intro too, as much as you guys like the as much as the classic get high all the time intro thing that he always has. Okay, let's hear the context.
My current situation here. So first off, I'm not going to sugarcoat everything. I'm not delusional. There's side effects of steroids. I'm well aware. Next, this year was especially terrible for me because if you guys have been following my YouTube, you'll know, and I've already bitched and complained about this, but I was basically at the tail end of my bulk, pushing over 250 pounds on cycle when the COVID lockdown hit. So when the COVID lockdown hit, I didn't want to take this extreme cycle anymore, but in reality, it was a very tough decision, right? So if I come off, that means I'm going to get fat as shit, or if I stay on, you know, I'm still stressing everything out while not being able to utilize, you know, work out, get the benefits out of the cycle. So I decided to terminate my cycle at 250 pounds, and then my metabolism crashed. I got completely fat, and now I'm here, and I'm cut back down to 235, 236 in the morning nowadays. So
Cool keyboard. Total side note, but I'm noticing this thing changing colors, and it's quite distracting, but cool looking.
I've recovered my physique. It took me a while to even rebuild my strength, and I did not want to, you know, I wanted to get back to the volume I was doing before I started cutting again, because I do plan on competing in NPC Classic Physique. So that was my final bulk, and it got super messed up due to...
I'm looking forward to see Russo cut. Like, I don't know about you guys, if you followed him or not, but he hasn't been on like a perma bulk, but he's been on like a perma bulk and then like sort of recomp and like come back down to like almost what you would consider like in shape, and then bulks up again for like the past 4 years at this point. So I want to see what he looks like shredded, and this should be interesting. So glad to hear that's on his agenda.
COVID, and I think that plays a role in this blood work. Now I'm going to show you two blood works. Again, the previous blood work I got pulled was before the enhanced documentary to make sure everything was okay, and then I'm going to show you the current blood work as well, and I'm going to go into what I personally look at to assess, you know, the side effects of steroids. So let's get started. If you guys could leave a rating and comment on this video for the algorithm to help more people see it, that would be amazing. I
just liked it, so no problem.
Trying to get to 30,000 subscribers.
I'll go leave a comment. Hang on. Algorithm comment. There we go, doing my part.
And I feel like I'm the most unbiased, realistic, no sugarcoating, you know, bodybuilding channel out there.
Are you now?
least one of them. Maybe.
I'm just fucking.
I say I'm the best one, but I definitely think I'm one of them.
Okay. Yeah.
So let's get started. All right, let's get started. So the number one side effect with steroids is the progression of heart disease because of the cholesterol skew, which you can see in my...
I fucking hate these lab test panels that lay it out in boxes like this. Like I much prefer the just like LabCorp breakdown rather than these like little box things. But anyway, so let's see. Cholesterol, no, like LDL is the main, like obviously high cholesterol, you know, you can argue is that good or bad. LDL, you can argue is that good or bad in the context of the pro-inflammatory state of anabolics. Like, yeah, an LDL over even 100, I'd be quite concerned with, to be honest. And HDL 21, it's like, I guess what the context here is this, like this is before the enhanced documentary. So this is like on TRT. I'm not 100% sure, but, yeah, like the HDL, like this is a pretty normal, like it's not normal, but it's like a lot of guys are like getting close to like single digits, you know, that are blasting and cruising year round. So I'm not surprised to see a 21 HDL. So the LDL and the total though are what I'm more concerned with personally, because that would be something that could be largely regulated through dietary intervention or just like compound selection. But yeah, the HDL, nothing really you can fucking do about that, to be honest.
blood work. So that is the red flag. Always, you know, the most prevalent side effect I personally see in blood work with steroids is that the HDL is low and normally the LDL is high. Now, this is the worst cholesterol reading I've ever gotten, and I think it obviously comes into the factor of I got fat at 250 pounds. I did not get the reverse diet, back down and lean out and then go off cycle, right? COVID hit me and I had to terminate my cycle before I got to reverse back down.
Okay, so something to keep in mind too, guys, is your cholesterol can get fucking destroyed like in a matter of weeks. So some people think this is reflective necessarily. Like, I don't know what his like normal is, or if this is different than normal for sure. But what I can tell you is when I've done like very, very controlled experiments, even like adding in eggs, pulling out eggs with the exact same diet model around it with no interfering anabolics, none of that, like literally like one factor changed and it was no difference in like net calories per day. It was literally like one food group different. You can literally totally alter your lipid profile within a matter of like a couple weeks. And like doctors will tell you, oh, get it retested in like 3 months. It's like, no, like I literally took my LDL and total cholesterol from perfect to horrendous back to perfect again within a span of like 2 weeks in between each test. Like it doesn't take that long for your body to reflect poor diet practices and body composition in your blood work in certain markers, and lipid parameters are one of them. So, you know, if he's saying his diet and like body composition went to shit, like, yeah, like it's understandable.
And I really wish I had an extra month or two or had some sort of warning that, you know, the gyms were going to close so I could reverse back down and not get fat. So I think that plays a role in this cholesterol. So 21 is HDL. You really want HDL to be around 60 for most optimal. And then 40, 35 is what you shoot for while you're on shit. So
yeah, if you're actually blasting, like the likelihood you're going to maintain over 40 is like pretty fucking hard. If you're on TRT, you know, shooting for over 50, I would say if you're above 50 on TRT, you're doing pretty good. But in general, like you never want to dip below 40, but it's like, it's pretty fucking common. Like you'd be surprised like how difficult it is for some guys to maintain over 40. Like even me, like with optimal, even when I'm on point with everything, like maintaining like a mid 40s on TRT is like kind of normal for me, to be honest. And it's like the one health marker that I struggle with. And it's not like, again, you know, there are certain things that show no reflection in improved cardiovascular health or I guess long-term, like actual when you die. And one of those things, surprisingly, is like just your HDL level on paper. If you take a fuck ton of niacin and you boost your HDL up, it's going to have like no net impact on how long you live at the end of the day. When you actually look up the studies on like what like randomly cranking up your HDL with certain supplements will do, often the net impact is like 0. So this is something that we intervene on pretty significantly but we don't really know for certain how much of a problem it really is. You know, like obviously, ideally, you would have these things all in an optimal balance, but HDL is one of those things, man, where it's like, you know, you do what you fucking can, but I don't necessarily recommend slamming nicotinic acid and shit to try and like artificially boost it up just so you can feel good because you have a 50 transiently until you go take a bunch of orals again. Like it's not really helpful for your health. Just because you have a number on a piece of paper doesn't necessarily reflect long-term health. So just keep that in mind.
I'm at 21. I will be utilizing red use rice cardarine krill oil to bring my HDL back. Hopefully, so I'm shooting for 35, 40. If we look at my previous blood work.
In my experience, okay, I've tried like all of the HDL boosting supplements. The flush version of niacin works, but it doesn't really do anything to improve your actual health based on the studies. So is it worth giving yourself that fucking flush every day and potentially depleting methyl groups if so many people have MTHFR polymorphisms? How significant is that? I don't know, but I don't want to deplete the fuck out of methyl groups with nicotinic acid for no reason, just so I can artificially boost a level on a piece of paper that may otherwise have no net improvement on my health markers. So, you know, like niacin, obviously it's, you know, potentially good, but I don't know. It increases your number a little bit. Krill oil, I didn't find made a big difference for me. I do use 4 grams of a high quality fish oil now though, with a high EPA and DHA content. And I think I sort of fell prey to the marketing with the krill oil people who basically make it seem like if you don't have astaxanthin in your fucking product, then somehow it's like way worse, even though astaxanthin is like the least, you know, studied fucking compound that actually has no real like provable huge benefit to having it. And there's like this huge push in like the supplement industry that like 99% of the fish oil on the market is like oxidized and like shitty for you, and you'd actually be better off not taking it than you would taking 99% of the fish oil in the market that's all like rancid. And it's like, no, it's just not the case. I've dug into this pretty heavily at this point, and it's like a tactic by a lot of these companies that are trying to sell their product. I didn't realize how much like actual like bullshit biased marketing was going into some of these like opinions that have been spread around the community about fish oil. But I literally just use a high quality EPA and DHA dense fish oil now, and I take 4 grams of that a day. And that's a pretty high dose. Like, I don't even know, to be honest. Like krill oil, I don't see any benefit above and beyond what fish oil offers. When you actually look at the DHA to EPA content you're getting into krill oil, you're basically paying for overpriced EPA and DHA. Like, you're getting such a little amount that you end up having to supplement with fish oil on top of your krill oil anyways to hit an adequate EPA and DHA amount to yield the maximum health benefit. So it's like, you know, at the end of the day, if krill oil has some benefit above and beyond, I don't take it. Just put it that way. Maybe one day I'll change my mind back, but as of now, I think it's an overhyped waste of money when you could just get a high quality fish oil. As far as cardarine, yeah, that works. But again, is that like, I don't know, is it worth the risk just to improve your lipid parameters? I don't know. Citrus bergamot also works quite well, and it has some other benefits that I'm a fan of, so I use 1.5 grams of that per day. That's a supplement I've used for like, I don't even know, like almost a decade at this point maybe. And that's a tried and true one in my supplement regimen, and it is probably one of the only ones I would really recommend for lipid modulation. Other than, like, I don't think a lot of people realize how much diet actually plays into how bad your lipids get. Like, you can literally manipulate the fuck out of it just by drastically altering your diet profile, like within a couple of weeks, to be honest. Of course, there are genetic components to that too. If you have hypercholesterolemia or things of this nature, you have to be potentially a bit more aggressive in like the actual pharmacologic intervention. But, you know, presume, like, we don't, like, I don't know what is, you know, if he has any polymorphisms or anything of that nature. So just going off the assumption that he doesn't have that, whatever, I'm getting off fucking track.
You can see that my HDL before I got fat was 32, but my LDL was 72. Now this is the bad thing. So LDL has skyrocketed because I got fat, and, you know, the cycles have, you know, took a toll on the cholesterol skew. So I'm going to be changing my diet. To be honest, I've been eating 8 whole eggs a day.
Well, there you fucking go, dude.
So I'm going to cut that out and switch to egg whites. I've been personally lazy with that.
A lot of people think because Rhonda Patrick and some other people, pretty sure it was her, could be wrong, said if you add eggs, it actually has like no difference on your cholesterol levels because it's such a negligible amount contributes to your cholesterol levels from food sources. And that's so fucking wrong, dude. So wrong. I actually have a meta-analysis I've had saved for months at this point that I was going to bust out to prove that wrong and show my own blood work, which I've already, but it was like, it was going to be such a poorly viewed video that no one would give a fuck about that I just didn't do it. So this is where the type of content I make is like tailored around trying to find shit people will click, and then I get to introduce the information I want via that vehicle. So fortunately, I just found an opportunity to plug that in. And if you go look at my vertical diet logs from 2018, you'll see that literally adding in eggs doubled my cholesterol, my LDL, and then just removing them brought it back to perfect. Like literally only that in the diet. Like keeping 1 pound of ground bison in per day in my diet had no impact on my cholesterol levels whatsoever, my LDL, my trigs, etc. However, when I had the eggs in and out, completely fucking nuked everything. So does that mean you shouldn't eat eggs? No, but it means that you have to be cognizant of your own individual response to things. And just because some fucking expert on Joe Rogan podcast tells you that eggs don't have a difference on your lipid profile, they fucking do, dude. Check your own blood work. You'll see.
And I've just been ordering omelets, 2 vegetable omelets from Uber Eats, and I'm going to do the egg white substitution as well as, cardarine, red yeast rice, krill oil. So overall, my cholesterol total is 11 points over the reference range. Now, that being said, it's all bad cholesterol mostly with, 21 HDL. If we look at my previous blood work, we can see that when I'm not fat, when I have everything under control and don't have this fiasco of a year go on, my LDL was only 72, which put my total cholesterol at 122, which doesn't really put me in the risk factor, in my opinion, for heart disease because the data with HDL and LDL is, and you really need to get a more special cholesterol test to really know what your cholesterol was like. So
he's probably referring to a fractionated panel, which is something that a lot of experts talk about on YouTube, but do not actually post videos explaining. So, I'm not saying he's doing that, by the way. I'm saying like a lot of health gurus in like the general health sphere, Dr. Eric Berg types will talk about this shit, but then not make a video explaining how to interpret it or what to order or anything. And it makes me wonder if they actually know what it is. They often say how you need a fractionated panel to see the different lipoprotein sizes and see which ones are atherogenic and which ones are not problematic. And but no one just makes a video like showing, here's the fucking blood test to order. Here's how you interpret it, like I have yet to see one. They always just say like, like this would be good if you got it. And then like, that's the end of the video. So, anyways, one thing I can tell you is to find out if you look into LP little a. This is something that I saw via I don't even know if you call him a lipidologist or whoever the fuck it was, but through Peter Attia, this lipidologist or whoever it was, and then also Leo in Longevity sort of reinforced, delving into it deeper. I've sort of realized that's one of the main things you should be looking at, especially in your genetics if you have the risk allele for it. So that is something you can actually, like practical takeaway you can dig into, is that specific marker in itself is very predictive of cardiovascular disease. So that's something you're not going to get in your standard lipid profile and something I would highly recommend you look into.
So I forget the specific test, but you can actually see like the density of the cholesterol and stuff. So
by the way, as far as LP little a, I probably should have clarified. LP little a stands for lipoprotein little a, and it literally is lipoprotein and then in brackets a little a, like literally a lowercase a. So if you're looking it up and you're trying to wonder, if you're trying to figure out what I'm talking about, literally just go to Google, type in lipoprotein bracket lowercase a bracket, and then you'll find it. You can dig into it more. And if you want to look up the actual SNPs, to see if you have polymorphisms that put you at risk, you can go dig into them on, I think it's snpedia.com. You can just go find them manually, then plug them in through your genetic analysis. So, and that's something I hope to offer in the future, by the way, some sort of like customized reports through my HRT clinic for like providing feedback automated on this kind of shit, so that you don't have to go figure it out yourself. And that's something I'm working out with potentially Leo from Leo and Longevity. We might have some sort of collaborative service on that, because I think it is a disservice that somebody does not have that in the bodybuilding community yet.
That's really what I need to get back to. I need to drop my so I need to get my LDL down and raise my HDL up. That's going to be the main goal for my next blood work. So that is the biggest side effect of steroids, is the HDL skew.
Yeah, so especially at his age, like that's going to be the most problematic thing you're actually going to recognize in blood work, especially acutely. It's going to be the wildest swing. You might see his SHBG is like chronically low too, depending on how aggressively he blasts and how much time he takes off and how he lets his estrogen run. But yeah, the lipid profile in particular is typically what's going to be nuked in most individuals, notably the HDL. Like even guys who are on point as fuck, the HDL is the hardest thing to keep in a optimal zone,
Constantly need to be fighting this, and when you combine it with a bad diet or you get fat, it gets really bad. So lesson learned, I really couldn't do anything. I plan on recovering this and pulling bloods in 6 months, and hopefully my HDL will be around 35, my LDL will be at least under 100. So that is the main worst side effect of my blood work right here. All right, so fasting blood glucose was 74, which is good. You always want your fasting blood glucose to be under 80. If you have fasting blood glucose of 100 plus, you're pre-diabetic and you could be facing insulin sensitivity issues. Now with MK677, I utilized a lot of MK677 during these past couple cycles, so it's good to see that my fasting blood glucose, even this fat, is still normal. I have a good insulin sensitivity, so that's fine. So
it's one of the main things people don't realize about MK677. It's actually more problematic than just like straight GH as far as your fasting glucose levels and just your insulin sensitivity in general. It's fucking brutal. I don't know why it's so much worse, but it is. So, and obviously being a ghrelin receptor agonist, something that makes you overeat, it doesn't exactly compound well with the heavily inflated blood sugar levels. So it has kind of a net negative impact. Obviously, if you're somebody who has very specific performance enhancing goals or other goals, it's like one of the most, I don't know. Another weird thing about MK is the fact that I noticed I've taken GH a lot of times. And, one of the main benefits people use GH for is its effect cosmetically, supposedly, on hair quality, skin, etc. Nothing GH-wise has ever improved my hair as much as MK677 did. I've tried CJC with DAC, I stacked with ipamorelin, hexarelin, GHRP2, GHRP6. I've tried straight GH, high dose, low dose, blah, 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 every dose. Only thing that made like a very noticeable difference in my hair density was MK677. Why? I don't know, especially considering it does not increase growth factor production nearly as much. So I don't fucking know, to be honest. Maybe it's just the way it, endogenously like encourages fucking pulsatile secretions chronically, essentially. Versus like, I don't know. I don't really know how to explain it, dude, to be honest, but that's just anecdotally is fucking horrible for insulin sensitivity. And it makes your hair way better than any other GH, fucking mimetic, GH itself, any of the other GHRPs. Like MK is pretty much like the oral equivalent of pinning GHRP6 like 4 to 6 times a day. And for whatever reason though, it's fucking insane for hair and even better for intramuscular fullness and whatnot. But you really need to be in a very specific scenario for it to benefit you. And there are very token scenarios in which it actually is worth the like risk to reward, I guess, because, but I can't argue with its, fucking convenience being oral and effectiveness and whatnot. Like it's a very, very interesting and unique product for sure.
My urea nitrogen, which is my bun, which is a kidney marker, is completely normal. So my kidneys do not show signs of progressive kidney disease. They would obviously be elevated, and my creatinine was normal and everything else was normal as far as my kidneys are concerned, which is awesome. Next thing I wanted to highlight is alkaline.
I would definitely use a cystatin C calculated glomerular filtration rate if it were me. However, that's typically only in the context of you have a fucked up creatinine calculated one. Like if you have your default metabolic panel is going to use creatinine to calculate your estimated GFR. And if that's showing you have problems, like do a follow-up cystatin C. Like ideally you would just get it off the bat, but it's an expensive test. I understand most doctors aren't even gonna know what it is. So if you do have a terrible eGFR on a test and it's based on a transient creatinine value and you're a heavily muscled bodybuilder or you just trained recently or whatever, get a cystatin C and use that to calculate your GFR and then see what it's at. Because I've literally had people message in saying that it showed that they had kidney failure when using their creatinine, and then they got a follow-up cystatin C that showed their kidneys were fine. And vice versa, if you had a problem that may otherwise go overlooked if you didn't get the proper test done, the only thing that meets like gold standard parameters in clinical literature is cystatin C calculated GFR. Like the base default you're going to get in your metabolic panel is not going to be accurate, unfortunately. Or if it is, it's much less likely to be accurate.
Alkaline phosphate, AST, and ALT. These are the liver markers. So if we look at my previous blood work, you can see that number one, I think it was 677 and my fasting blood glucose was 101. So I, have been really on my fasting blood glucose monitoring it. And then my alkaline phosphate was 118. So my liver was stressed on my previous blood work. On this blood work, my alkaline phosphate is completely normal, actually on the low end. My AST is right in the middle, which is normal for a bodybuilder who is constantly, lifting, breaking down muscle. You're going to have a bit of a stressed out liver. So super excited to see that my liver is not showing signs of liver disease or any serious liver issues. Just to put it in perspective, I've seen ALTs, which my ALT is 46. I've seen ALTs at 450, right? It's it sneaks up on you, right? These people don't understand that your liver is being strained with orals until, your ALT, AST hit in the hundreds, right?
So one thing I would recommend is you're not going to see a tumor or something on your liver in an AST or ALT elevation. Holy fuck, I can't click pause apparently. So once every couple of years at least, I would recommend getting an ultrasound of your liver and your kidneys, as well as obviously regular echocardiography, ideally once a year for your heart. But yeah, like some of these people, when they say get your bloods, sometimes the more important shit, actual morphological changes, you're not going to actually see reflected in the serum values necessarily. So make sure you get actual proper imaging done on a regular-ish basis, at least every few years or something. If you're young, obviously you have a bit more leeway, but I mean, especially as you get deeper into it, 30 plus years old, 40 plus years old, shit should become way more regular, yearly thing.
Really bad ALT, ASTs.
And that's not blood work. Blood work should be way more frequent than yearly. I mean, the actual checking your fucking organs.
So super excited to see that everything is normal. Now let's get into the testosterone. So my testosterone has crashed. I have the testosterone of a grandma. And this is very strange to me because my sexual performance and libido.
Just to be a dickhead, that would be a great level for a grandma. That is not a grandma level. That is a high tier fucking girl level. So just so you know, obviously it's shitty for a guy. It's shitty for a guy, but that would be a fucking yoked grandma.
Normal currently. So not to, I don't know really what to make of that, right? I said in the previous blood work video that my Clomid is half-lifing out. It was on the 3rd week of when I quit Clomid. So this is indicative of permanent shutdown, but my opinion is that I'm fat and I'm not in the optimal body range.
My opinion is I am fat. I thought that was funny.
Stressed out right now currently, and I did not take natural test boosters. I honestly wanted crashed blood work to get my TRT, which I will be doing a video how to get TRT completely online, and I'm going to be vlogging the whole process, so thumbs up for that. But as far as testosterone recovery, I don't know if my testosterone will come back or not, to be honest. I do want to vlog it and try it after my competitive fitness career is over. I want to see what I can get my natural testosterone to, but 51's basically not on. I did not get luteinizing hormone or follicle stimulating hormone tested. So I don't know where those are at. Obviously they're crashed in my opinion. And
well, you don't know that for sure. Like, how do we know if you're actually crashed or not? Maybe your body's trying to kick back on. You don't know. I don't know. Like, I guess he's not too concerned about it though, being that the goal is not necessarily to restore natural function, but you know, if you had like a, you know, luteinizing hormone and a follicle stimulating hormone that are in range, you know, that might influence your decision on what kind of SARMs to not take or take. You know what I mean? Like maybe your PCT practices are more aggressive than you need, you know? Not for him. I'm just saying, like in general, if you finish a cycle and you get blood work and your gonadotropins are in range, but you haven't recovered yet, like it doesn't necessarily mean you have to go into a full-blown fucking aggressive PCT just to mimic what your body is actually normally producing, like on its own. Like you're fucking, things are looking good if your LH and FSH are, you know, pushing up into the reference range, like higher at, you know, if they're not tanked and they're sufficient enough to produce hormones and they're starting to kick back on, is it necessarily to send negative feedback and shut down your LH again using HCG? Like, no, it makes no sense. Like, see what the fuck happens with your natural gonadotropins and then reassess. So that is a big mistake some people probably often make, where they'll like preemptively jump into aggressive and, you know, toxic PCT drugs unnecessarily and then shut down their HPTA again, even though they just had in-range gonadotropins, you know? I'm not saying that always happens. I'm just saying that would be something, if you were off cycle and you were getting some shit done to determine what your next move is, like, yeah, definitely get the gonadotropins checked and don't just assume that you need SARMs and HCG and blah, blah, blah.
it's just weird. I did not feel like low T, honestly. I'm just being completely dead honest. Like when I was on Clomid, my mood was all over the place and I got so, like, it felt so much better to get off the Clomid. And that's, I guess, when my test started crashing, right? Because the Clomid is artificial LH, FSH, artificially stimulating it. My pituitary did not kick on. Don't know if it's going to kick on if the connection with the HPTA in the brain is, you know, fucked up. I don't know. I'm not in the optimal body fat. I'm not in the optimal sleep right now to even have good natural testosterone. So really wasn't my concern, but that is another side effect of this many cycles, 20 or over 20 cycles. I'm an experimenter, to be honest. So estrogen was 139, which is very high in my opinion. And I wanted it to be high, right? Estrogen is important to build muscle when you're bulking.
So something to keep note is when people see this 139 estrogen, they're thinking, holy fuck, that's high. When they're not realizing this is total estrogen serum. This is not total estradiol. This is total estrogen, including estrone, estriol, etc. So, no, I don't think that's high at all, to be honest. For your test levels, it's high though, but just in general, it's not high. But yeah, that is high relative to your grandma, to your fucking hyper elite grandma test levels.
And estrogen is so important for HDL. So that estrogen saved my HDL from being in single digits. So
I'd like to see what the components of that total estrogen are though, in terms of estrone, estradiol, estriol, because I don't know, you know, like you would think with a 51 nanogram per deciliter total, the majority of these estrogens are coming from, I don't know, like obviously there's some tests, you know, aromatizing, but it's like, you know, how much of this is like estrone, you know, how much of this is like shitty estrogens that are not actually providing adequate estrogen receptor activation, you know, I don't know, like this is kind of a weird value for it to be in a default panel, to be honest, like having it just like fucking accumulated in this big chunk. Like I would ideally see a estradiol on its own individually.
I'm not complaining about the estrogen. Personally, it has not impacted my libido at all. My libido has been normal.
By the way, I would never recommend first of all, a total estrogen is a no-no unless you just like are just using it as a proxy for something. But if you like really want to get like granular and like see what's going on, you would get an estradiol separately. And then when you get that estradiol, you would use sensitive assay testing rather than Roche electrochemiluminescence radioimmunoassay, which is the default that these will go to. And for guys on gear especially, it's so fucking inaccurate. It's so inaccurate. It's literally the entire reference range of difference. So I would always recommend sensitive assay testing if you're on gear especially. So I don't really know what his estrogen's at. I'd be interested to see. I wouldn't be surprised if his E2 sensitive is actually low as fuck.
When I was on cycle, my libido, I was hypersexual for sure. So I feel normal as far as my libido is concerned, even with a testosterone of 51. So I don't really know what to make of that. And it's fine because I have crash blood work to utilize for my TRT, which is fine. So estrogen was high. You want estrogen for neuroprotective purposes, right? It protects the brain. When you have estrogen low, it's more neurotoxic. Testosterone, androgens are neurotoxic. Estrogen is neuroprotective. This is why you see male cognitive decline happen before female cognitive decline in the elderly most of the time.
Yeah, so that's 100% spot on. Like when women hit menopause and everything crashes into fucking zero, essentially, what is the thing that spikes up? Alzheimer's risk, cardiovascular disease, blah, blah, blah. Like the risk of cardiovascular disease before and after menopause, it's like night and day for women. And, you know, bone degeneration, muscle loss, blah, blah, blah. Like it's not like men where you have like a gradual decline of test levels over the years as your, you know, biological usefulness essentially fades. But for women, it's like right when that shit goes and you literally crash the single digits on everything and everything goes to shit. Like my mom, her sensitive E2, when I got her tested a couple of years ago, was 5. 5 for a woman. That's less than mine was on my DECA only cycle. That's how fucking low it was. So, yeah, like it's not, low E2 sucks. Yeah, what he said, you know?
So that's good. I will be obviously bringing my estrogen back down to the 60-80 range while I compete. But right now with the body fat I'm at, you know, it's perfectly acceptable. And honestly, I'm glad my estrogen's high because it saved all my HDL. IGF-1 was normal, so you can see if your pituitary is messed up with your IGF-1 count, or you can see if your HGH is real. If you get bloods pulled while on HGH or you get bloods pulled while on MK677, you can see where it's at. So 138, my IGF is completely normal despite, you know, all the MK677, right? So my pituitary is still secreting GH normally. It's not crashed despite that, despite, you know, all the MK677. So hemoglobin and hematocrit on the upper echelon, right? 17.1 is the reference range and 50.9. So on the upper echelon with PEDs are going to increase hemoglobin and hematocrit. Now, if it was way worse than that, then all you have to do, in my opinion, is to donate blood and you can get these numbers down lower. So if I donated blood one more time, then my hematocrit and hemoglobin would be in range, but they're basically in range. So not too worried about that.
The only thing I would advise for guys who are donating often is to keep an eye on your ferritin and iron levels. I know it sounds, you know, why would that be a problem? Like I've seen a lot of guys deplete their ferritin into fucking nothingness by over donating, including myself. Now, obviously iron in itself is, you know, a lot of health issues if you have an excess of it. And, you know, a lot of people that I respect actually do therapeutic phlebotomies very frequently in order to intentionally get their iron lower. However, if you're a guy who's doing it like as frequent as fucking possible while on just like TRT or something, you may end up getting into a point where you're like actually deprived to a certain extent where you may be kind of like overkilling it. So just be aware of that. It's kind of something that a lot of people don't think about. They just think, oh, you know, I'm on exogenous androgens at all, so I must go donate every single chance I get, and even potentially therapeutically phlebotomize on top of that. And then they end up with a crash ferritin without even knowing, and all of a sudden their fucking hair's falling out and this and that. And it's not common, but it does happen. Some people feel like dog shit because they're over donating, which like I said, it's few and far between, but it's something to at least, you know, keep an eye on if you're donating a lot.
Platelet count was normal, and then all my cancer tests came back with, you know, did not register. Now let's get back to prolactin, T3, T4. So my prolactin was completely normal despite my high estrogen. My T3 was completely normal despite all my T2 usage, which shows that thyroid stimulating hormone was not crashed while I've been using T2. So T2 is pretty legit in my opinion. And I came off everything before this blood draw, right? So there was no T2 in my system, but before
If you guys want to see me do a video on T2, let me know in the comment section. It's a sort of hyped up fat burner, I guess. It's in the cascade of hormones that comes from TSH, T3, T4, etc. And some people do use it exogenously as a fat burning agent rather than T4 or T3. If you care, let me know, because I have some strong opinions about it, to be honest. But I will not elaborate in this video because it will end up being a 1 hour video, which we might end up hitting anyways.
For the blood draw, I was using T2 every day to increase my T3, and my T4 is normal as well. My prostate specific antigen is normal, and it shows that my prostate is not growing rapidly from steroid use. It's not, progressive prostate cancer possibly, or any risk of that. It's completely normal. My prostate is not being, it's not being messed up by all the PEDs. And then my hemoglobin is normal, and this is very important and commonly with
shit.
Only cycles is
check that SHBG out, bro.
My SHBG is completely crashed, so all 50 of my tests is basically free, right? So there's no sex hormone binding globulin going on. There's no test being bound up useless. We will see next blood draw where that's at. So
one of the fastest ways to bring your SHBG back up, by the way, is 8-CG monotherapy, like literally coming off of the androgens and using a, well, you could do it a bunch of different ways realistically, but HCG monotherapy is kind of the tried and true way that guys on TRT will fix, fucked up SHBG levels. That can be, like, SHBG is a proxy for a lot of things. Some people with insulin resistance, blah, 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 especially PCOS in women. And in androgen using males, though, especially at super physiological dosages, and especially those using orals, and especially those using injectable SARMs, your SHBG is probably going to be pretty low, even in lieu of those other factors. So it's something that, if you want proper regulation of your testosterone levels and it actually getting delivered to target tissues effectively and in a regulated way, I would recommend trying to keep an eye on it and keeping it in the middle if you can. And it's, potentially difficult if you're obviously blasting all the time, but contrary to popular belief, having crashed SHBG is not necessarily good, despite the fact that all your testosterone essentially is unbound and free to then go build muscle and do whatever. It's not good if your body's just a geyser of fucking hormones that is not being regulated by SHBG whatsoever. So I would definitely recommend keeping an eye on that shit, because it's especially in a hair loss context, it's so problematic that people don't realize is DHT has a 5 times higher binding affinity than test for SHBG. So, people, they see their total test and they see, oh, that's good. I have good free test that if my SHBG is low. You also have a dick ton of free DHT that you would otherwise not have if you had a normal SHBG, which is wreaking havoc up here. So if you are prone to hair loss, SHBG should be one of the first things you're looking at. So just keep that in mind.
That is unbiased blood work analyzation from me. Not sugarcoating anything. Obviously, the cholesterol is of concern.
By the way, I'm not critiquing anything he's saying. I'm just giving my own opinion. I actually really like Russo, and his content is great. And I don't really know anybody else his age that's giving out content that's this informative, educational, explorational, etc. He's a very good source of info, and especially interesting to follow his experiments and whatnot. So definitely give him a follow. And anyway, let's hear the rest of this video.
And I will need to do mitigation steps to get my cholesterol under control. But based on my previous blood work a couple months ago, my test, or my total cholesterol was fine. My HDL was normal for someone who uses PEDs, and my LDL was great. And obviously with COVID, it got fucked up. So that's what I got to fix. Honestly, with the previous blood work, I had a lot of other issues, right? My liver was super stressed out, which I was fixing. So yeah, that is my current blood work, pre-contest cycle blood work. Like I said, I'm going to be focusing on fixing my cholesterol with Cardarine, SR9009, red yeast rice, krill oil, omega-3s, and taking the 2, and then taking, the 8 whole eggs out of my diet and lowering my overall cholesterol intake pretty significantly.
Russo, message me and I'll send you some citrus bergamot and let me know how that works. Because I use 1.5 grams a day, and I think you could use it. And we literally fucking carry it through your sponsored company, which you may not even know. So hit us up and we'll send you some.
Should get my HDL around, not my HDL, my LDL around 100, and I'm gonna shoot to boost my HDL back up to 35ish, 40, and aim for that. So those are the specific side effects I've had from all my experiments, right? I'm not a normal, person here. Obviously, I experimented with tons of PEDs, and in my opinion, nothing is completely out of whack besides the cholesterol, which if you see in my previous blood work results, my cholesterol was pretty under control until, COVID happened and everything got fucked up. So,
okay, so anyway, I think that was the gist of the blood work interpretation, and good video. I love these blood work deep dives because there aren't anybody publishing it, to be honest. There are very few people who publish it, and then even less people who know how to interpret it that are publishing it. So it's good to see somebody, like he's been doing this for years, by the way. It's not like he's like new to this or some shit. Me and him have been posting for like the exact same time. So, check out Russo. He has a lot of similar content to my stuff, and good video, very interesting to see. 20 plus SARMs and steroid cycles, and some good educational feedback that we can both provide throughout the interpretation process, and hopefully the video picks up some steam, because that's a pretty fucking strong title for the algorithm. 20 plus SARMs and steroid cycles. So let me see how I can twist and turn it to see if it cranks up some views and gets more education out into the mainstream, because that is frankly the goal at the end of the day, is to try and make these videos as clickable as possible, and then try and shove education in your face while simultaneously entertaining you somehow. So, do my fucking best, and hopefully you liked it. So like, subscribe, check out my blog, moreplatesmoredates.com. Follow me on Instagram at moreplates_moredates, Facebook, Snapchat, BitChute, Twitter, TikTok, Apple Podcasts. If you want to support the channel, you can check out anything I'm associated with in the video description below, including my TRT clinic. If you want to get your hormones assessed, your entire health panel, top to bottom, hematology, metabolic panel, fucking endocrinology, anything of that nature, and have in-depth analysis with very educated doctors and patient care coordinators, check them out, and you can get an individualized assessment and go from there. Anything else I'm associated with, Gorilla Mind, notably, we have basically a handful of health supplements. I will be expanding it in the future. There are only some very particular ones that I think have merits and efficacy that I've spent thousands of dollars myself on for the past however many years. So if they're on our site, I pretty much deem them worthy that I have talked about them, and you can literally dig into my old videos like years ago to see me using other brands of that same product to see that I do indeed believe in them. And we have some health products that will help with your lab work in terms of your overall health status, in terms of kidney health, lipid parameters. To some extent, you can only do so fucking much when you're aggressively going on gear, obviously. Insulin sensitivity, stuff like this. So anyways, as well as, everything else we sell in Gorilla Mind, obviously, pre-workout formulas, nootropics, etc. Check those out, and anything else I'm associated with, video description below, including my own pre-designed lab test panels that I make from scratch based on what I think are the overarching most important markers for basically assessing your health in different contexts. Like I have a basic panel, a comprehensive panel, and then I also have a finasteride panel for those who are trying to assess their, just entire hormonal environment and health status prior to embarking on 5-alpha reductase inhibition. I'll probably have more customized panels in the future, but for now, I have a pretty elaborate breakdown of each of those, and some are at a more cost-effective price point with less sensitive testing, less elaborate markers, but all of the critical ones I feel for basic testing. And then the comprehensive one is basically like my deep dive into what a full-blown like health assessment would look like through serum levels. And then anyways, more to come though, and anything else I'm associated with, video description below. Oh shit, I just top comment, I didn't even notice. Excited for the MPMD video on this. I'm sure it's coming. What are the comments? My first thought, I already heard. What's up guys? Derek from moreplatesmoredates.com. Funny fucking guys, everyone knew. Let me see what else, see any other comments in here. What the fuck? Oh, it's me. My comment was at the top and somehow it's at the... I don't know why it's showing up twice. That's fucking weird. Let's see. Anything else? Yo, Derek, what's the scoop? That's funny. Any plans to do a calcium score? That would be so fucking pointless at his age. Go watch my video on responding to a Fouad Abiad and Ian Vayer on what test to get to see why a calcium score would make absolutely no sense for Russo right now. What else? Shit, the video's pushing 53 minutes. I might cut it off here. So anyways, thank you guys for watching. Talk to you soon.